Welcome everyone to today's Engineer Whisperer podcast, transitions and focus on the transitions on the director roles. Today I have Joe with me. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
I'm super excited to have you here to ask you questions that, gives me an opportunity to get to know you. So welcome again. Tell me a little bit about you.
So I grew up in Southern Oregon. My dad was a logger and a preacher. So he worked in the lumber industry for a period of time, and he worked as a preacher. And then my mom was a secretary. Really kind of put her career on the back burner to raise myself and my four other siblings. So I grew up in a big family household. Spent a lot of time out in the woods, tied to like my dad's passion for the woods and to forestry, and became an Eagle Scout, and then tried to go to college. Initially, I couldn't get into college. The ROTC scholarships I applied for, they thought I had asthma, and so they denied me, but they let me enlist. And so I had an early year of time enlisted in the military, where I got to see the military from one perspective. And then I was lucky enough that when I applied again after demonstrating that I was physically capable of being an officer, of being accepted to the military academy. I went to the military academy and graduated in 2001 and became an armor officer in the U.S. Army. And really enjoyed that experience as an armor officer. Deployed to Iraq twice, once to Afghanistan, deployed to South Korea, where I served as a company commander, deployed to Saudi Arabia, where I was an advisor, and did many other things during that time. But over that period, I did everything from operational deployments to training other soldiers how to do their jobs, to exercise planning and deployment planning in support of those operations. So large organizations, small organizations, all the way down from 16 persons all the way up to 40,000 plus. So a lot of experience and breadth of engaging in training, planning, developing, and executing plans.
And now you're bringing it into the business world. So I invited you here so I can ask you questions so you can share some of the experiences and the knowledge and the wisdom with us. So let's jump right in. And when I say a director role, I'm really curious about your transition into becoming a leader of leaders. So when you first got that role, were you invited or was that always your plan to move up in the leadership?
So when I joined the Army, I didn't have plans to be a leader. And I just wanted to get the opportunity to see the best that the Army could give me, and turn my hand at the hardest things that they could give me to do. So when I became an officer, there is a career path. And as an armor officer within the combat arms, you become a leader on day one. You don't serve on staff, you go immediately, and you're a platoon leader in charge of 16 to 18 soldiers.
Wait a minute,
My
why didn't you want to become a leader? I'm so curious.
Everyone always wonders, like, right?
Uh-huh.
I was a pretty aggressive and headstrong kid, but I didn't like structure. And so I was afraid I couldn't lead within a
I
structured
see.
environment. I would much rather be on my own because I did a lot of solo sports. I did wrestling, and I really liked the onus of wrestling, where you go out and it's you versus someone else. And it's a contest of skill, but it's also a very strong contest of will. And uh, I had less experience and less success in team sports. So I was concerned that if I was a leader of other people, would I have the same level of success leading that I had in individual sports? And so that's why I was reluctant at first, and I wasn't sure I'd be successful.
Well, then this conversation makes even more interesting because I'm so curious of how did you transition even within your mindset to believe that you are capable to become the leader of leaders. So let's start with the easy one. What came easy to you, if anything?
So when I was a platoon leader, and when I was an individual in sports or in combat, um, I wasn't old enough to be smart, and I didn't have enough experience to be smart. So I didn't know what fear or pain was like. And when you start when you first start feeling that, you learn how to overcome that for yourself. But fear and pain isn't fear and pain for yourself. Fear and pain is really fear or pain for your mistakes hurting or causing pain or suffering to other people. And it took me a period of time in those two deployments to Iraq, where I was responsible for 16 other soldiers, where you really learn what fear and pain is. Because I at that time was accustomed to physical pain. I was accustomed to physical deprivation,
Mm.
but the pain of watching someone else suffer for your mistakes is high. It really, it's an unimaginable burden. And I know leaders in small companies, leaders in other companies who have faced with the idea of, do I have to fire an employee? Uh, can
Yeah.
I make paycheck or make wages for these employees? That's a burden that often I think we don't actually communicate effectively to other people how much that pain and suffering can weigh on leaders. And so when I first started as a young platoon leader, my understanding of what fear, suffering, and pain were was not accurate. And I didn't really start tasting that until I had that responsibility for other people and their lives and the impact on their families, on the decisions I made. And so when I was a commander later on, um, that's where you start feeling the real weight because you have less and less of a safety net for those decisions on other people. When you're a platoon leader, you have multiple safety nets to make sure that is that decision that you're making correct, and is that the best way to go? You have your company commander, you have senior non-commissioned officers, you have other people to kind of check your
Mhm.
decisions. When though as you progress in rank in the military and likewise in the business, those safety nets they kind of fall away, and
So
it's
Joe,
more
how
and
did
more
you
on you
carry
to
the
be
weight?
decisive about that.
So Joe, how did you carry that weight? Because you talk about the weight of that. How did you learn to carry it? How did you?
You don't.
You
That's
don't.
the big transition.
All right.
The big transition is empowering your leaders underneath you. So if you are a leader of leaders, you
Mm-hmm.
have to give them skills, you have to give them tools, you have to uh, ensure that they have those. So you have to test them, you have to train them, and you have to certify. But if they're on your team and you've selected them to be on your team and leaders of your team, that weight isn't on you. You share it amongst the team. And that's the big transition I made is I stopped trying to carry all the weight myself. I tried to spread the weight across the team, improve communication, and then make sure that when they had feedback, hey, is this the best way to go? That I took that feedback and applied it to how we move forward as a team.
So Joe,
And I
how
try to
did you
apply that
get
to
that
this day.
awareness? How did you get that awareness that because it's one is you talk about the fear and the pain, and then about the weight of it, and then okay, I have to spread it, share it. So what what was the pivoting point? An experience, or how did you get the awareness to move into the second half?
Man, that's a hard one to say because what's the tipping point? You could talk to two, three, four mistakes where someone had counseled you ahead of time and you didn't listen closely enough. So October 18th, 2003, I ran into an ambush. And the day prior, my platoon sergeant warned me that this location would be a great place for someone to ambush us. So we need to be more deliberate about driving through this location.
Hmm.
24 hours later, guess what happened? When driving through that location, we got ambushed. Um, did I change the method that I approached that specific location? Not 24 hours later. I did the day after, but that ambush had a big impact on how I viewed that feedback from my platoon sergeant and from my soldiers. That yes, that is a valid statement. And yes, I need to adjust the way that we act and operate. Later on, as an executive officer, you would get similar feedback from other soldiers that, hey, is this the best way to approach this problem? So we ran into a problem where our soldiers didn't want to use all the optics because they were frustrated with the training level necessary for it. And so, how do you build consensus and how do you get the team to want to adopt a new technique, a new technology where there's a learning curve and they are comfortable with the old technology and the old technique and the old training?
Yeah.
And so I got feedback from multiple soldiers that maybe we set this up as a competition of the young versus old, the young that wanted the new technology versus the old that had the old technology but had a higher skill set and a higher training level.
Hmm.
And during the course of the competition, the young beat the old, and it helped drive the buy-in that these young, less experienced soldiers with this new technology and a little bit of training and experience were able to cross that gap and demonstrate a higher level of performance. And
Yes,
so sometimes you have to be professionally embarrassed in a competition or in a way to help you see yourself
I like that.
that you didn't think about before. But
Yes.
I we couldn't go the brute force route. You can't just say do it because I told you to. Do it in a way that lets the other person who says that this is the better way see for themselves, is it truly the better way? And when they come to that discussion, that discovery on their own, they're more likely to accept or adopt a different course.
Yes, have to be humble to take that feedback, to listen to someone else, and then to take action.
So
Yes.
it it was those lessons of either mistake or opportunities where I chose to listen and apply it, that over the course of 23 years in the military, it's such a great incubator because you're surrounded by such great people who also have this driving purpose, because your life, your quality of life, the success of the team is dependent on refining and improving daily. And so it it sometimes can feel easy to just kind of coast and not grow. But in that environment, it's very difficult to coast for too long because
Yes.
the stakes are so high, and it's so important to continue to grow and improve the team because the team is constantly improving, and the
Yes.
competition and the threat is constantly improving as well.
Yes. I often say that the team can only grow as far as the leader grows. So if the leader stops growing, then the team won't grow or the team members will leave. There's just
Exactly.
no other way. So you might have answered this, but I'm curious, maybe there's something else. Joe, what was challenging in your transition?
So in my early transition from being a leader at the low level to a leader at the higher level is how do you, like I was talking, that idea of delegation and leading through a described vision and purpose without necessarily having to be the one in front. Because when things got tough when I was younger, the default was charge to the front, follow me. Charge to the front, follow me. So I
Wow.
would throw more and more weight on my own rucksack or in my own back. And it would, in the moment, change the momentum and keep the team moving forward. But in the long term, it robbed my subordinates and my team of the opportunity to grow themselves. And so a lot of my growth came early on in my career from being forced to charge forward and solve a problem. But as I became more experienced and a leader, guess what I kept doing? I was stealing those opportunities. I was robbing those opportunities from my subordinates.
Yes.
And I had to stay in the back and force myself to stay in the back and let them move forward and have the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to struggle, but also give them the safety net that if they did struggle too much, they could either turn to receive advice or support as necessary. And that was a big learning point for me, is forcing myself to stay one or two steps back, let my subordinates do their jobs, and then provide them support and the guidance necessary to be successful after they struggled uh, the right or the proper amount to learn from it and not do it for them.
What carried you through to stay in the back to give them that space?
At first, it was just the physical inability for me to lead that entire team. That team was 70 plus people. We were
Wow.
dispersed across training areas. We were dispersed across all of South Korea doing multiple jobs. There's no way I could physically be there. So the physical distances prevented me from being on site and doing it myself. And so I had to learn how to lead, and I had to just learn how to delegate, and then um, have my presence be there at the critical point when necessary to ensure success, but not to do more than necessary. And
What?
I think that was it. Is the scope of the team that I've managed prevented me from physically doing it. So I had to learn how to do it through delegation and through leadership.
It sounds like there was also a strong motivation on your end to succeed, because you realize the only way to succeed when you can be physically present with your team spread across the country to find another way. So was that finding another way always something that you had, or was that something again learned? Was it a learned trait?
That's a tough one to say because um, I've been stubborn my entire life. I didn't like listening to my mom. I didn't like listening to my dad. I didn't like listening to my peers. I've probably gotten better at that as I've gotten older and more wise. Hopefully, I'm wise. But I have a very strong, stubborn streak, and I have a very strong will to succeed. And
And
I
where is that
don't.
coming from? Where is that coming from? Is that from your upbringing? Is it from your dad who had, the jobs that you told me? I mean, there's so interesting that growing up, I bet it was hard to be a logger's kid.
Um, Man, without going into psychology, if you're one of five kids, like you're fighting for food. If you're one of five
Okay.
kids, you're
Okay.
fighting for attention. If you're one of five kids, you are fighting for resources. And so, even if your parents are doing the very best that they can, and my parents were, but they were busy as heck trying to just keep us fed and keep us from hurting each other.
Yeah.
You will have those moments where you feel like, man, somebody else is getting more food than me. Somebody else is getting more attention than me. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do to improve my opportunities or my success? I want to go do soccer, but I have to watch my sister do something else. How do I fix that? Well, I'll call my neighbor and see if he wants to do soccer, and then his dad will take both of us to soccer practice.
Yeah.
And so, just finding another way I've always been there. And I don't know if that's because in that kind of herd of kids, that's what I learned, or if it was just something else. But that's probably an element of it. The other part is wrestling. I was a small kid, and I was not very big. And so to succeed in wrestling, you have to learn skills, you have to adapt skills, and you have to see what works best with other people. And against certain types of body types, against certain different skill sets,
Yes.
this will work, and then this won't. And if
Yes.
you have a really strong capability on your own, like you're really strong, you're really fast, or you have a high level skill, you don't have to adapt as much. I was none of those things. And
Yeah.
so I had to learn to adapt to the person I was wrestling. And so that will to not lose, the will not to get punished physically for being behind, that was always there. Or the will to compete. Like, do you want to sit on the bench or do you want to be junior varsity? Do you want to be junior varsity or do you want to be varsity?
Yes. Yes.
The difference between good and great is effort. And so the difference between winning and losing is effort and willing to accept one thing or the other. And it's taken me a long time to be willing to accept good. And I've only chose good in certain places when I want to have great somewhere.
Well, thanks for sharing. I know now that that might have been one of these questions where I asked you to be vulnerable. So thank you very much for showing up and answering. I really
Yep.
appreciate it. Our environment, how we grew up and where we grew up, I think it matters in our nurturing of our skills and talent. So I can hear that in your story. And probably it's in your genes as well, because you and your family survived. I relate to that. I think I grew up with that. I will figure it out and I will survive no matter what myself. So very, very relatable. And I think our audience will relate to that as well. So Joe, let me ask you, what was in your transition something that surprised you, if anything?
So I'm going to fast forward to my transition from the military to the civilian world for the
Sure.
surprise.
Sure.
And so when I transitioned last year, June of 2023, I transitioned to Tilson Technologies to a telecom company to be a director. Um, the role is remote. And so all of my all of my subordinates and most of the company is spread across the United States, and we do 90% of our work day to day through remote video teleconferencing. And so what surprised me there is, although I had a experience in the military doing VTCs, we did exercise planning with countries across the Pacific. We did exercise planning with units across the United States. Um, you would still have more touch points physically, face to face with people to build relationships. And learning that and doing that with a higher percentage of my time was a huge surprise. How do you build rapport in the moments before you have to talk business? How do you build a relationship with someone um, when you only have prescribed meetings on a VTC calendar? How do you convey vision and motivation to other people through a screen? And we all get motivation and vision from movies. We get motivation from music, so you can do it. But how do you do that deliberately as a leader for your team
Yeah.
or in conjunction with other teams? And so that was the real surprising thing to me, is I didn't realize how much I leaned on the physical presence portion of my previous job, and how I had to continue to double down and triple down on learning the task of how do I communicate effectively remotely
So
and
tell
over
us, how do
video.
you do it? These are great questions. I like. I'm so
How do you do it?
answer just one of them. Yes.
Ah, easy one. Take time to not do work during the meeting. So I set aside time Monday morning for my team. Um, you get done with the weekend and you show up for the first weekly stand up, and you're supposed to talk, hey, here's all the stories we have to go through this week. Here's my blockages for this week. But we pause and we talk for 5 to 10 minutes about what did you do the weekend before. And so you build with your team that rapport. In
Hmm.
my previous job, we would come back, one of your teams would go to Thailand and they'd come back with pictures of, here's all the Thai food we ate. This is the people we saw. Here's a
Yes.
picture of a cobra. And everyone would love that. And so I took that same kind of feedback of those trip reports to basically, what's your weekend report? And we do have some travel. So like when I get back from Vegas this week, next Monday, I'm going to show some photos of the cool food I ate, the cool places we went, and the things we did, not in a professional sense, but as a human being.
Hmm.
And so you learn. I have a guy on my team that likes to make pizza, so he shows us the pizzas he cooks every week. I have another person that collects hats, so he wears a different hat on Monday for that new hat that he collects. Another kid has this crazy dude that loves Marvel and all superheroes. So he shows pictures of his son in different costumes that his son is currently wearing around the house and hitting his brother or sister with sticks.
Uh-huh.
It's those kind of things
Yeah.
that humanize and build the team, because now it's not just Joe or Andrea. It is that person I know, and I know more. I have a glimpse beyond that people. I have a
Yes.
glimpse into their life, and they're human. And
Yes.
once you get there, it breaks down boundaries. And
Yes.
it's not just what I learned in the military and sports, that you have to bleed and you have to sweat and you have to struggle with people. You can also just share your humanity through your stories. And that's one way we currently do it.
Well, that's why we're here. So thank you for being here. That's one of my intentions of being here. What about that second question? How do you motivate a team that's far away, that you only have limited time? I'm curious.
So,
What do you use?
and it's different too. Like in the military, you have rank, you have evaluations, you have promotions that are on a very rigid stair step. So that you, if you fall off that stair step, you know it immediately. In the civilian world, a lot of it's self paced, and so here's the things you need to do to get promoted. And someone can stay in the same job for 5, 10 years and
Yeah.
never meet those gates and
Yes.
be perfectly okay with that. And
Yes.
so, really, it is you find, and it goes back to that first step. Once you learn the individual, you have the one-on-one conversations, you have the large group conversations. You say, this is what I'm seeing about you. I think you like this type of work. I think you like these type of tasks. Do you mind if I kind of push the majority of these type of tasks towards you? Because I think Bob or Susan or Ryan, they like these types. And I know that you haven't demonstrated that you either like them or that you enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
it's learning the skill sets, but also learning the um, what they would like, and getting that feedback, because you don't want to just do that without talking to them. Because sometimes there's a yin and yang. So if I only give this type of work to this person, now they get pigeonholed and no one thinks that they can do other tasks. So
Yes.
you want to have that open conversation with your team. What do you like to do? But also have to say, well, we need to continue to kind of grow your portfolio. If we only do this type of task, this is what I'm afraid of. Are you
Hmm.
okay with that? And so that's that open dialogue, but also continuing to give them opportunities to succeed and to stress and push their limits. But it has to be that two-way dialogue. If they don't want that, you you got there's a risk there.
But you mitigate the risk because you're the first step. You get to know them, you get to build
Yeah,
trust. So then a conversation like that, it's not so risky. It's not so, oh, what's the word? So fearful. Because
yeah,
now
and it
you're, go ahead.
goes back to like Korea. So when you have that subordinate who you've delegated the task to, you stay in contact with them, you support them, and you provide them guidance
Yes.
or resources as necessary. And so
Yes.
the key is when you have that risk and your team member has said, I'm a little nervous. It's like, all right, I got you. Do you want me to pull you or do you want me to support you?
Yes.
It's like, because I can't really afford to pull you.
I love that, dude. Yes, yes. Full support and what support. And yeah, yeah. So then you start that conversation where they
Yep.
open up and they share what they need so that you can provide that. As a leader, I mean, I think that's what we want in a civilian or military environment, or as a parent, as a child, as a friend. I want someone to hear me, to listen to me, listen really to what I said, and then to give me these options, and then help me with the decision if I need help. So it's that, in a way, agency, but accountability, and also the respect that they believe in me. I can do it, either with their help, some of their help, or on my own, or get started with their help. So yes, that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing.
And that's how you build that motivation, because the motivation is tied to that relationship. The relationship's tied to knowing them,
Yes.
and knowing them helps you know what they want, and what they need. Because what they want may not always be what they need. If they need professional growth to fix a hole in their swing, and they may not want it, but they may need it.
Well, let me turn it on you as the leader of leaders. How does your team know what you want and what you need? Because we found out how you find out from them and their needs and wants. How do you become that leader who also shows, role models that?
So there's two ways. Number one, when you do your one-on-one counseling, I have my team kind of build out. Here's my professional timeline. So I show them here's what I want to do for the next 20 years. And so on that, there's my professional timeline for me personally. This is what my opportunities are, and this is where I see. I'm 45 years old. This is where I see myself when I'm 65. And then underneath that, I have this is what my spouse is doing. And then underneath that, I have this is what my family is doing. So when I'm 65, my youngest son will be 3 years into college. And they know that. And they're like, well, why the heck are you showing me that? Because I'm showing you that because here's my short term, medium term, and long term goals. And then these are the points at which I'm making decisions. And this is what's influencing those decisions. Here's a blank copy of that. Now, I know you may be 23 years old and you have a fish, and that's the only concern you have right now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay. But I need you to tell me in 20 years, when you're 43, what do you look like? And so that drives for them the backwards plan. What are my goals? What do I want to do? And the big things of risks, rewards, vision, and purpose in their life. What do they define success as? So once they know how I define success, once they know what my purpose is, what I tell them my purpose is as a leader within this team and as a human being, as a leader of my family,
Yes.
then that helps them frame it for themselves. Once you've done that, then you take it to the team level. So as a collective team, we talk about this is what we're going to do this year. This is what we're going to do in the next 6 months. This is what we're going to do in the next quarter. That vision, that structure, they know me and then they know the team, and that gives them the guidance. All right, here's the long-term goals, what we're supposed to do. And so we may have a little bit of a steering problem sometimes where we get distracted with other priorities from other teams,
Yeah.
but they know where I see us, where my boss sees us going, and what we're going to try to do to support the company and the company's growth. So that's how I try to do that kind of development.
Well, it sounds like you're not just trying, you're doing it. I mean, based on what you said, it's happening. And that's so awesome because I discovered that myself and um been doing it with my husband. We have those interestingly those timelines too. The kids are over here, they're graduating, da, da, da. So it's super cool. It's super cool to see you share with the kids, share with family. They're like, wow, this is so inspirational. So it works in a family setting as well. And of course, professionally as well. So I'm curious, where did you learn that? Where did you first learn that? Or who
So
taught you that?
it was the captain's career course when I was transitioning from a lieutenant to a captain, and my boss was asking me what job I wanted to do next, what post I wanted to go to next. And he's like, I want to go here. And he's like, okay, well, how does that impact your wife? And what do you mean, my wife? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, what will she be doing when you're at that post? And he's like,
uh,
oh, I don't know. I didn't think about that. And I'm like, what about your kids? And they're like, how old are they? And I was
I
like,
didn't think about
nope,
that.
that is. So where are they going to go to school? I was like, oh crap. And so he's like, and he handed that tool to me, he put it in front of me. It's like, here's your
Okay.
professional development. The
Nice.
military has a very rigid professional development time. You know, at 17 years, you'll be this rank. At
Mhm.
20 years, you'll be this rank, or you won't be this rank.
Yeah.
Um, but what you don't know is what your spouse and your kids will be at. You
Yeah.
do know that 1 through 12 is pretty linear. So you can map that out.
That's
That as long
true.
as
Yes.
that your kids will probably be in first grade through 12th grade in a linear manner. More than
Yes.
likely, they won't get held back. More than likely, can't guarantee it.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can't put that on the calendar. And so once you put it on the calendar, you know when your kids will be going to school full time. And if your spouse chooses to stay home to take care of kids and they're in school full time, that opens up new opportunities for her to work. Um, and so for me, we had 3 kids under kindergarten age, and so we were looking. All right, when is my wife available to go to full time work? Because she was staying home and doing other things until our 3 first kids got into school. And
Hmm.
so that drove, all right, where do I want to be? And then what opportunities does that have for my wife and her chosen profession based off of where we were going to post in the military? Because if I go to a place with fewer jobs, Fort Drum, New York, upstate New York doesn't have the same job opportunities that Colorado Springs does. So it does kind of shape those discussions with the spouse that she's going to take the hit on a less desirable post in a less desirable place because it may help me professionally.
Well, I want to
Well,
turn it not just gonna, not on the hit side, but on the it's gonna create a bond, a partnership that will support both of you, and in a marriage, in a partnership, that
yep.
growth that not just one person is growing, and now I'm talking growing career growth, but also now the other person has the opportunity to grow. And when you can, I remember, I'll speak from my experience, when me and my husband, we discovered that we can support each other's growth, not just, oh, I'll do this for you and then you sacrifice this. So it's the
Mhm.
understanding when we both gonna grow, but in different periods of our lives, as you said, depending on how old the kids and what we're doing, where we are. But we mapped it out. It's like, okay, yeah, I can support you over here for 4 years, you doing that, and then you'll support me over there doing that for 4 years. It's super amazing. So what I'm hearing is that you're using that in your professional life, and then you're weaving in the personal success. Because one of the things that, thank you for bringing it up, that I work with engineering leaders is they seek me out for career guidance, but we always do what you say. Like when we create a plan, it's like, well, who's your biggest cheerleader? Your spouse? Hopefully your spouse. Does he or she know that we're working together? And because this will influence them. And then again, that awareness. You can't create something in a silo, especially when you have a family, a spouse and kids. So I work with the whole family, the whole, I guess, the whole person, including the family as well. So thanks for bringing that in. And I hope that some who are listening gonna reflect on their life, and maybe they're gonna start doing this plan as well. We inspire
It
them.
yeah, it was really helpful for me, but it also it's that cognizance of those people around you, like you talked about, is like without that awareness of it's real easy to get tunnel vision on the current project or the current thing at work. And it's real easy as a leader to get tunnel focused and not look at that about your subordinates. And so my team members, I want to know, like, hey, is something big coming down the pipe? Is your spouse pregnant? Are you having to take care of um, a parent or a family member that is not in the best of health? And so now we know that context. And like I was talking earlier, is how do we adapt the work as much as feasible to support that employee during this period?
Yeah.
And you can help find that niche, and that improves the quality of life for them, and it improves the quality of work and the return to the company if you are aware of that. Because otherwise, if you're not aware of that,
Yes.
um, something is going to suffer in silence because you're not communicating, you're not talking, and you're not framing those discussions in the right way.
Yes.
And that's either going to be your employee is suffering, or
Yes.
the work provided to you is less than it could be because you're not aware of the other distractions or blockages that are impacting them.
Yes. Well said. Well, Joe, as we're getting to our closing moments, I wanted to ask you, what is a transition that you're going through right now? And then you want to share about it with us.
Purpose. And so when I did that and I had that discussion with my team, I one of the purposes at this point in life is to continue to maintain strong relationships with other people. And I found that although I love my team and the work that we're doing together, and I love my bosses and the other coworkers, doing that remotely is not filling the gap. I'm used to doing sports in the morning, bleeding and sweating and crying sometimes if someone hits me too hard in the military, and I'm not getting that. And I can try as hard as I want to build that relationship, but if I don't have the physical face-to-face interaction with human beings um, tied to a task, um, I have a hole in my swing. And so I'm trying that now is through either um, I'm looking at possibly coaching to support my kids in their sports, or getting more involved at church, or getting more involved with I know it's stupid, but my local poker team, because we have a poker community in my neighborhood. Uh, just something that I have a reason and a relationship to do things with other human beings, and to look forward to that and build that. That's the thing I was missing, and um, it took a lot of like searching. It's like maybe I just need to deep dive deeper with work and build this relationship with my team.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
it's that
Mm-hmm.
physical relationship, and it can't be your
Mm-hmm.
family, it can't be your kids, it
Mm-hmm.
can't be your coworkers when remote. I need
Mm-hmm.
other human beings to do things with, that hobby, that sport, that interaction, and that's what I'm getting after now.
Yeah. Wow, that's super cool to find that. Well, to be aware, to find that something's missing, to not be afraid to see what that is, and then to go for it and really understand what that is, not just the feeling, because the feeling's always going to be there, but then to take action to find it. So kudos to you. That's super cool. I encourage others to do the same. We need that time away. I call it when my husband does something and or I do something. I'm a dancer, so can't take the dancer out of a dancer. When I go dance, he lets me and I go do my stuff. And I believe in. I think relationships get stronger because we miss each other. So in a way, for those that we really care about, the separation creates actually a stronger bond. So That's so cool. Well, I would like to give you the mic so you close us out.
We've talked about a lot, and
We did.
I just appreciate number one the opportunity to talk today and to share with you. Um, I think the two biggest things that I want to just drive home is um, the willingness to let go of the reins. It took me a while to get there to allow others to succeed and then support them. Um, and so that was the first real kind of turning point for me as a leader is I don't always have to have my name on it. I don't always have to be the face at the front. I can still get quite a bit of satisfaction and quite a bit of like, man, just joy of
Yeah.
watching members of my team grow and succeed.
Yes.
And it's both. I want them to grow. I want them to get better. I want them to demonstrate that growth. And I want them to exceed at everything I put in front of them. And man, it's absolutely more powerful than almost any individual accomplishment I can point to is when I can point to it, my team succeeding or my individual team members having success when they initially would have struggled. That's awesome. The second part of though is it can't be haphazard. You have to have a plan on how are you going to engage your team, how are you going to communicate with your team, how are you going to build and enable that team to succeed, and also to build that trust that if they are struggling, that they're not on their own, because you can't delegate and expect people to succeed if you don't do that deliberately. And so I think I've talked a little bit about how I try to do that. I would just ask that my methods may not be the way that you choose, but look at how you want to deliberately invest in and engage your team and empower them to be as successful as they can be, and really take that to the edge um, as much as you can to test how far can we go, how much can we grow with the time period that we have, and how much can we do. Um, and that to me is success, and it's really in the second half of my career in life that I'm going to get the most passion and the most fulfillment out of that is how far can I carry my team, and then at some point they take over the tasks and I just kind of sit on the sidelines.
I can feel that energy. So I think you're on the right track, Joe. So keep going. And if you need help, reach out.
No problem.
Well, if someone got inspired to find out more, to connect with you, what's the best way that they could do that?
So Jay Harrison at tilsontech.com is my email address. I'm on LinkedIn. You can easily find me at Joseph M. Harrison on LinkedIn. And if you want to listen to my podcast, Through the Gray podcast is the podcast I do, where I talk to my class of 2001 West Point graduates who have done many, many, many more important things and powerful things than I've done. And I am in awe of the awesomeness of the people that I've had the opportunity to serve with and go to school with. But yeah, please reach out if you have any questions. And thank you for the opportunity today.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And we'll add all those in the podcast notes.
All right. Thank you.